from the EPAWA headquarters in South Allentown, Pennsylvania, it's time for Weather Weeklies, an informative video of the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The following segment is a weekly video blog, and the opinions of the forecaster do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the staff of Eastern PA Weather Authority LLC as a whole, nor its constituents. Without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrus with Weather Weeklies.
And good Sunday morning to you, and Happy New Year. Another edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, January 3rd, 2016. And we do have the cold this week here. We told you that once we got into the month of January, we'd have some big changes. And, of course, we're not dealing with the 50s and 60s and even 70s that we've had in the month of December. We're now dealing with temperatures that are more seasonable for this time of year. So nothing too oppressively cold. I do think we're going to get to that in a couple days. And if you look at our 6-day forecast, that denotes that Monday, Tuesday around these parts will be quite chilly and below normal. Let's get into the long-range forecast table. We just released this on Saturday night. We did this a day late because of the holiday. But here is the overall gist. We actually usually start off with temperature, but since we have some storm threats here, those were discussed first. Temperature from the 1st to the 6th, which is the period we're in right now, is slightly below average, and that's going to average slightly below average for the entire period. Of course, again, Monday, Tuesday is going to be especially cold. We're going to be well below normal for both of those days. Temperatures struggling to get to freezing in most locations. It may not get to freezing on either day. So we'll be very cold those 2 days here, and then we're going to be dry in this entire period here up through about the 6th here. Then temperatures are going to return near to slightly above average as we get from the 7th through the 9th. Watching a storm system here along the 9th here, 8th to 9th. It's an overrunning system with what looks like to be rain right now on the operational guidance. We're still going to leave the opportunity for rain to snow at the tail end in northeastern PA, and we discussed that here. There's still some, every single model is handling this differently, so it's really hard to latch onto one idea and say, okay, well this is what's going on, and we know for sure this is what's going to happen. For some models that are showing a rain to snow situation, and getting a few inches of snow in northeastern PA, other ones are just saying mostly just a rain event. So we're just going to just wait this out a little bit because today's only the 3rd, and we're looking at something that's still 5-6 days away. So definitely some time for changes here. Because of that, we have the confidence low on this right now, but that's because we have so many different systems on the table. Now we do have another winter storm that we have actually better confidence than the one that precedes it, which is a little odd, but that's because we have a very high ensemble guidance is very high on this system right around the 11th here, so it increased it to a low to moderate chance here over this in our confidence chart here, and I'll show you why that's important. As far as the ensembles are concerned, we're going to get into that in this video here, kind of determine the difference between deterministic models versus ensembles. I think there's a big confusion with that. So to kind of give you a little insight of what we do here behind the scenes. And then we're looking for another below average period. This is probably a very large period, from the 10th to the 20th, below average. Another winter storm threat possible between the 15th and 18th. So we have a very moderately high confidence in the below average temperature. So we do think this is almost a certainty, but then low to moderate for a storm in this time frame, because you're going out pretty far. So to say that it's going to be fall exactly within this time frame at this range is, is a little bit of a risk, but we have a low to moderate chance for that as well. But we have a good signal in this time frame, so we'll just leave it at that for now. January as a whole, we think is going to end up slightly below average in temperatures overall, and then near normal snowfall. We still maintain that. So we're going to go to the Madden-Julian oscillation we always start off with here, and take a look at what's going on in the dateline convection. Here is the equator right that goes straight across the middle here. This is the equator. So what we're measuring here is the convection along the equator in the Eastern Pacific that is in relation to the international dateline, which is the north-south line right here. Here's where we are right here is North America. We are sitting right here. Okay, South America is down here. So you see what we're doing. This is the entire world on a flat piece of paper here. We're measuring the position of this convection here, and it's just to the west of the dateline here. This is a phase 7 signal. Phase 8 would be right around the dateline here. And then we go phase 1, phase 2. So these are very favorable phases here for cold and snow in the eastern half of the United States. This promotes, by having this convection out here near the dateline, throws heights at the western ridge. That keeps this ridge up high here like this, and a trough in the eastern United States. Of course, trough is cold, ridge is warm for areas out west here. That doesn't concern us because we don't live there. So we're worried about this here for troughs and ridges. So if you're looking cold and snow, you want the Madden-Julian oscillation to be kind of where it is right now, and then continue to propagate eastward. If you remember, if you follow around along these videos the last couple, I don't know, I guess a couple weeks here now, maybe 3-4 weeks ago, was out here in the Indian Ocean. Here's India right here. And it was in the southern Indian Ocean where the best convection forcing was. We saw this continually every single week propagating eastward a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further, and now we're out here. Okay, so this has been eastward propagating convection, and we're now sitting near the date line where you would want the best force in order to get a trough and cold in the east, if that's your thing. So here's the Madden-Julian oscillation table, and we're not going to go through too much of a description of what this is here. Your colder phases are right here in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 8. Those are your really cold phases. Your cool phases right here in phase 7. That's where we are right now. So this was the 31st, this black dot. This black dot represents where we were in the 31st, 1st, 2nd. We're somewhere here in the end of phase 7, about to go into phase 8 here. So we called this a cool phase. So it's near normal temperature for this time of year is what we're dealing with right now. So that's why you're in, it's a phase 7 look. You get into really cold here, and I think we get into that. Once you get past, once you get past the 9th, we're going to go to these cold phases here, and you can see that the little dots represent a new date in the cycle. This is a cold phase in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. You see where this is going. The projection is for it to go into these phases. Now, it's not a very strong signal here, but it's not really that important, because the fact that you have the dateline convection is all that we're really concerned about at this point. Your warm phases are then phases 4, 5, and 6. As long as it stays away from that, we will be in the cold phases here. So we're propagating toward these colder phases right now, and that's why we're expecting these deep troughs in the east. When you have a deep trough in the east, you're talking about chances for snow and obviously cold. So now we're going to take a look at the deterministic versus the ensemble guidance. I hear a lot of people on the Facebook page, Twitter, what have you, talk about, well, the GFS has this, the European model has this, the Canadian has this, and the Euro and the GFS agree with each other, so that means they're definitely right. Well, no, not necessarily. A couple different things we look at. One, we look at the upper air patterns to see if it makes sense, and two, to see if what it's reflecting at the surface matches what's happening with what's going on aloft. So again, remember, everything that's happening up at 500 millibars, which is about 18,000 feet up in the atmosphere, is actually controlling and has direct influence on what's going on down here at the surface. So if it doesn't match what's going on up there, and is not reflecting properly on the surface, that's a red flag. So there's certain things we look at when we're looking at for storms here. One of the biggest thing is we look at ensemble guidance. And I keep preaching this over and over again because I keep hearing people on the Facebook page, and I keep responding back with the same thing. Well, the ensembles say different. Oh, the GFS looks really warm past the 10th. Well, the ensembles don't. So why we choose to use the ensembles versus the deterministic models when we're dealing with temperatures especially is because you only have one operational run that runs several times a day. That's fine. But you have one run of the GFS, one run of the Canadian model, one run of the European model, and one run of the NAM. These are only one run. Okay. The ensemble guidance features many additional runs. So you have the GEFS, which are the GFS ensembles, and the GEPS, which are the Canadian ensembles. Those have an additional 20 runs that are, so in other words, you're taking, instead of just having one run to look at, you have an additional 20. You can look at them individually, and you can look at them as a mean or a blended mean, which averages those 20 members together and formulates an average, basically. Okay, or you can take a look at them individually and count how many members of these individually are showing what the operational shows or does not show. When I say deterministic, that means the operational run of the GFS, Canadian, Euro, and NAM. The EPS is the European ensembles. They have that runs an additional 50 times. So you have 51 members, and these are actually 21. These the GFS and the Canadian ensembles, because they take the operational run and blend it in with these 20 additional members to make 21, and then formulate a mean. Same thing with the EPS. It's 51 total. Okay, and then the SREFs are the NAM's version of the these are the names version of the ensembles. Name ensemble is very similar to that. 16 runs of those, and then plus the 17th is the mean. So you have the ensembles. They are a little bit different though than the operationals. They don't have the same physical parameterization, assimilation cycle, or perturbed observations as the deterministic run. So you have more things, more detailed information that goes into the operational run. That is true. But if you're looking at they're not that far off. It's just like they're kind of they're kind of I don't know how I say this right. They're all tailored differently. Okay, so the algorithms are a little bit different for each one. All right, and they take the same beginning information. They all take the observations that we're looking at. When you go have these supercomputers that come up with this information, they will take the same beginning information and they will simulate the future and try to forecast the future based on what's going on right now and what they think is going to happen in the future. Okay, so and that's all the model does. That's all any model does. All right, so but if you have 20 additional runs to look at versus just one, wouldn't you trust the average of those 20 versus just one single run? Wouldn't that make more sense? I mean, you're flipping a coin, right? Now we both know that you have one side or the other. It's either heads or tails. So you have a 50% chance of landing on heads or tails. All right, but you might flip a coin 3 straight times to get heads. Doesn't mean you're definitely going to get tails. Okay, so you're looking at these, and you're doing it's all a probability. So you're looking at it for collaboration and support to formulate the best potential solution, not as just one standalone model. Okay, so now we discussed that. I want to show you what this looks like individually here. Now here's a look at a system right around the 11th. This has a lot of attention right now because there's a lot of models and ensembles and things like that that are very hot and heavy on this. This is one model showing snow here for the 11th. Okay. We look for collaboration. We look at an ensemble mean, and we say, okay, well, the mean says there's also a big low out here offshore. Okay, plenty of cold air in here involved. So this is going to be a snow event. All right, very cold, very strong signal here for a system to be right out here. That means the majority of these members are all in this area. So this is the European, and I'm using this as, and I can't really use this, but this is an older image, so I don't have to worry about any copyright here because I'm looking at old data here. This is just for argument's sake. 51 members. This is the operational run blended with those additional 50 members. Okay. If they're all clustered out here, the average location of that area low pressure is right here. Well, this is a good spot if you want a snowstorm here. Okay, so then when we talk about we have a very good signal for the 11th, this is what we're talking about. The signal is based on the ensembles, not the observational guidance, or not the operational guidance. But more so, what we're doing when we do long-range forecasting is we look at this for temperature. We say when we do this table here, this table up top here, and we say, okay, well this from here from the 1st to 6th is going to be slightly below. It's going to be nearly slightly above average. Then it's going to be the 10th to the 20th. Well, the models don't go that long. The ensembles do. So we can use this and look at several different ensemble runs and say, okay, 10th to the 20th. What does it look like the 10th to the 20th? Oh, well, 10th to the 20th, we're looking at below normal temperatures. Here's the 12th. You can see these are all below normal temperatures. Here's a scale over here. So you get the idea. When we're looking at long-range forecasting, you're to trust a average of many ensemble runs. 20 is greater than 1. 50 is greater than 1. So why wouldn't you use an ensemble mean? So if you ever hear me say on the Facebook page or Twitter, the ensembles say different, this is what I'm talking about. Okay, because we use this as our strong point. You can even look at these individually and say, okay, well this is at a specific time frame. This is looking at January 11th. Oh, we got a big storm here. We had a big storm here, moved away. Here's one here has a big storm off the coast. This one has a big storm off of Boston. This one here has a big storm off Delmarva. So you can go back through here. There's a monster storm here. So you get back through here, look at all these different runs and see how many of them collaborate with your idea. Okay, now this is just one particular look at an ensemble, individual ensembles. These are all individual runs, and they all show something different. Okay, so you have to come up with your best idea based on what you're looking at. Now, as far as the operational guidance, we're going to start off with Friday. We talked about the Friday being the rain system. It looks like it is going to start off as rain and may go over to snow at least for northeastern PA, because we're going to have this system take over as the primary. But the GFS and some others were keeping this a pretty warm system, and has trended that way on Saturday's guidance, because this area low pressure was shown to be very strong, the one cutting to the west. We do think one's going to cut to the west, maybe not this far west, but cut up to the west here, weaken, and then transfer energy to an offshore low out here somewhere, when this will take over the primary. Because this is taking over the primary, it can bring some cold air down here, turn rain over to snow before it exits. That's the idea. So we're not totally giving up on the idea that we do get some snow here on Friday, but it does look like, at the very least, it starts off as rain for many. May start and end as rain for many here, but then just have to watch up here like northeastern PA, northern New Jersey, maybe east central PA. For some change over here at the end. Still uncertain, so we'll keep, again, we had that low confidence in our outlook, so we're going to check back with that. Now, here is the system of the 11th. This is a perfect example. European model from yesterday at 12Z showed the same area low pressure coming out of the Gulf here, instead of coming up the coast here and giving us a big snowstorm here on the 11th. Low pressure doesn't make the turn, it heads out to sea. That's the operational guidance. Now look at the ensemble guidance. Boom. Completely different. This is why we say it's a very strong signal here on the 11th. Even and I'll get these comments on the Facebook page. Well, the Euro's out to sea today, so I guess that means it's not going to hit. Well, no, it does not mean that. And we look at the ensembles and say, wow, look at that! Look at that cluster. See all these little L's here? These are all areas of low pressure that on these little these additional runs, the additional 50 runs. Now, yeah, you got some up here and whatnot, a couple down here. Majority of the cluster of them are right here. This is an ideal position for a big storm here along the eastern coast. And you have plenty of cold air involved in this. So that's why we think this could be our first shot at a significant snowstorm here on the 11th. Can it change? Yeah, of course. Could these be right down here? These couple that are down here, or maybe up here? Well, I can tell you if these are up here, right, that's because it already hit here. And it's just a little fast on these particular models. So the majority of these are showing a big storm here up in this area here, and that's why we're so profoundly looking for the 11th as our first chance for a significant snowfall across parts of our area here, and then maybe another one to follow that. We follow the ensemble guidance in order to determine that, and this has been locked in for a couple days. That's another thing. You're looking for trends and consistency. So we're going to re-examine this. I just wanted to go over the ensemble thing here versus the operational guidance, because I know a lot of people love hugging every single run of the GFS. Guys, you can't do that. You cannot do that. You're going to drive yourself crazy. I don't look at every single run unless I'm sitting there doing a forecast and analysis. I have to, because I'm not staying up till 2:30 in the morning to watch the European model. I know it's a lot of weather enthusiasts like doing that too. It's going to, the most important thing to me is going to be the ensembles, what the ensembles do, and that's what we're going to use to back up what we're seeing on the operational guidance, either to say, this looks great here, and we have this storm here along the coast, or no, this doesn't look right. Let's just check and see what the ensembles say, and lo and behold, the ensembles say something completely different. So just keep that in mind. If you have any advice to give the hobbyist here about what you need to look for. You got to look for the ensemble guidance to collaborate your thinking, because if you don't, you'll be at a loss. And this is how we succeed and have had success in the past in the long range. It's not 100% fail-proof, but you'll have a lot better opportunity to do well following the ensembles than just using the operational guidance, which will flip back and forth from run to run. I'm Eastern PA Weather Authority meteorologist Bobby Marchich, and that is this week's edition of Weather Weeklies for January 3rd, 2016. We'll see you again next week.